Hey, what's up everybody? MGM here. Today, I'm bringing you my fourth video in the series Companies I Recommend over the corporate overlords that own the most popular game in our hobby. And I get to tell you about Goodman Games and their flagship game, or at least what I consider their flagship game right now, Dungeon Crawl Classics. But Molly GM, isn't Dungeon Crawl Classics a crunchy game? I hear you, you convenient naysayer set up to help me move this along. But to answer you, DCC can be considered a crunchy game, but I personally put it in my homebrew category of rules medium. But before I go any further, I should let you know that I'm not being paid for this showcase, and all that is seen on the screen here I purchased myself. I do want to admit right off the bat I'm a big fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics and of Goodman Games, and they are a definite leader in the tabletop RPG space. So let me tell you a little bit about them. California-based Goodman Games was started by Joseph Goodman in 2001. Now, my understanding is that the game Bronchosaurus Rex, which is an interesting D20-based game in its own right, was the first game that was published under the name Goodman Games. Now, in 2003, Goodman Games began writing modules and supplements for 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. And my understanding is that it is from these modules that the 3rd edition based Dungeon Crawl Classics was born in 2012. In between that time, of course, there were some other products released, including an attempted 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons series of supplements and modules. Now, those didn't take off, mostly because 4th edition, really. Now, in a way, that was good, because this is when Dungeon Crawl Classics was born, and the hobby inherited a game that I feel was and is a needed addition to the hobby. Although it's influenced by the OSR movement, Dungeon Crawl Classics and Goodman Games are definitely doing their own thing and inspiring many other people along the way. Now, you may have heard Dungeon Crawl Classics being associated with terms like gonzo, zany, off the wall, and similar monikers. And I would say that this really does display the type of dangerous yet humorous style of game that the writing and artwork really try to inspire. They really do lean into the fun and the off-the-wall kind of stuff that a lot of pulp writing was really known for, being kind of wacky, a mixture of different genres, and you never really know what's going to happen. And Goodman Games, I think, does such a uniquely awesome job of capturing that feel and that vibe. And not that other games don't do it. I think the way that Goodman Games has done it is, in my opinion, the best so far, as in trying to portray that particular style of game. Now, since the release of Dungeon Crawl Classics in 2012, Goodman Games have released some other really great games, like the post-apocalyptic Mutant Crawl Classics, the awesome Weird West game, Weird Frontiers, and most recently, a book that I don't have is X-Crawl Classics, which looks like a really cool game in its own right. Today we're focusing more on Dungeon Crawl Classics because it's the one that most matches up with what this list is about. But stay tuned, there will be videos on those other games in the future. Now keep in mind, with those games there, I'm only naming a few of the many games that are under Goodman Games' umbrella, and I really encourage you to go to the description below, go to Goodman Games, check out their library of stuff that they offer. There's so much stuff there. It's definitely a great option if you just want one company to go with that gives you everything you need. The old one and done that I keep promoting for the people that are looking for that. Dungeon Crawl Classics and Goodman Games is an excellent way to go. Now, on top of releasing some great games, they also produce some of the most well-received adventure modules. They support real-life art as much as this channel does, and are big supporters of third-party creators. And they have a massive and dedicated community. I mean, this really is the one-and-done stop for those that just are looking for one place. This is a great option for you to check out. Now, before we go to the PDF, let me address something that is often pointed out. Yes, this book here, it's pretty big. Massive, some people might even say. Just a little check of the artwork in the back. Now, that's true. The book is pretty big and thick, but there's some things I want you to keep in mind here. That this book contains the entire game. It has all the player stuff. It has all the GM stuff. It has massive lists with charts and even advertisements and adventures in there. One of the other reasons why the book is so massive is the legendary fumble tables that accompany every single spell in the book, because magic is very volatile and dangerous in Dungeon Crawl Classics, and we'll go over that when I get to the PDF. You as a player, consider the first 110 pages being the stuff that you're really going to focus on and use. That's all the player stuff that's contained in there. And that gives you all the options. I mean, all the different classes, all the charts that go with those classes. Just there's a lot contained in those 110 pages, really. And the rest of the book, really, like I said, are some advertisements and adventures and a bunch of stuff the GM can use, leave aside, modify as desired, and create the game that the GM really wants to run. Would you prefer a rules light game? Then you just use the core rules and leave out all the extra rules and role tables. But if you want that maximum crunch, go for completely rules as written. And anything in between those are possible too. Now, if that's still too daunting for you, go to the website, and I have that linked below, and download the free Quick Start Rules. That's a 39-page PDF document that gives you everything you need to run Dungeon Crawl Classics. And the secret of the whole thing, guys, is if you just want to use that to run the games and then just use adventures and modules, you could do that too. You don't have to buy the entire system. The Quick Start Guide is enough for you to play, and then you can use supplements and modules to fill out your game the way you want. That's one of the beauties of Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's created in a way that's meant to be modular. It's meant to be mutated, fixed, and moved around in the true sense of old school gaming, where you're really creating your own game out of the rules that you're given. And I think that's beautiful about this game. There's really a love for the old school game here that shines through. And as I was saying earlier, they are inspired by the OSR, but by no means I would consider them OSR fully. They are really just taking the spirit of what the OSR is doing, and they did it their own way. And I absolutely give Joseph Goodman and the team at Goodman Games credit for what they've done. It's a great game, and it really should be even more popular in my opinion. But I think that about all the ones on these two lists here. So we'll leave it at that. Now, with that, it is a large book. At least the 11th printing that I have right here is a large and thick book. So at the PDF, I'm really only going to highlight some of my favorite things and some of the things that make this game unique. I'm doing this more for brevity, but I also hope to entice and encourage you to check it out for yourself. Now, with no more delay, let's go check out the PDF and find out what I like so much about Goodman Games and Dungeon Crawl Classics. Alrighty guys, here we are at the PDF. And once more, this is the 11th printing of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I want to show you some of this artwork. Just amazing. And this really does give you such a wonderful idea of the type of game they're inspiring you to play. And honestly, the artwork is worth the books alone. But if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know how much I do enjoy the artwork. This is TTRPG. Let's give credit to where they're due there. I love over here where it says TTRPG, Glory and Gold won by Sorcery and Sword. I want to stop and just appreciate the artwork of this gentleman. Mr. Jim Rosloff, thank you for your contribution, sir. Stopping here at the introduction to give you the core mechanic. Classic D20 system. You roll a D20, try to beat a DC or an AC, depending on what you're doing. Natural 1 is a critical fail. Natural 20 is a critical success. Very familiar, very clear. Now, they do a really great job of spelling out what's different about this game right here in the beginning. Some of the things I want to highlight, that proficiency bonuses, advantage, disadvantage, all that stuff, it doesn't use that. What it uses is a dice chain, and I'll go over that here in a minute. They're unique to DCC and a mechanic that I really like quite a bit. They do the classic classes and races are the same. There are 7 classes to choose from, and that's all there is. There's only really 3 saving throws you have to think about, Fortitude, Reflex, and Will, and that's really handy. That's a handy little mechanic there that I like. DCC does use occupations instead of backgrounds. I like how it goes here. It tells very specifically in the beginning that clerics can turn creatures unholy to their religion, that all spells use spell checks. There's no spell slots here, guys. Anyway, just wanted to show you some of those things. Let's look a little bit further and highlight some other stuff. Quick stop here to take a peek at some artwork. One of the beautiful things about Dungeon Crawl Classics that many other games have adopted in their own right is the character creation funnel. This is where the players get to have up to 4 level 0 characters that are not adventurers, and whichever one of those characters survives the funnel, which is basically a relatively dangerous adventure, then that level 0 character goes on to become your character. This is a way that they're able to negate things like min-maxing. Now you can forego this and just create a character, but this is a great way, and if you've never done this before, even if you don't play Dungeon Crawl Classics, try this out. It's a great time. But that's something that I feel Dungeon Crawl Classics introduced, and other people have really been inspired by that. Now, here's where we talk about the funky dice on the dice chain. Now, what that basically means is that instead of your typical D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and D20, you get the added dice in between there. There's a D3, a D5, a D7, a D14, a D16, and above D20, there's also a D24 and a D30. Now, instead of adding your proficiency bonuses and stuff, different situations may cause you to move up or down that dice chain, and that, of course, will change your ability to make good or bad outcomes. This is an excellent, excellent system that I think is really fun. And if you don't mind having the extra dice, and most of us don't, because let's face it, we all have a lot of dice, this is a great excuse to get some more. Also, I just think it's a really great way of not having to worry so much about what's on the sheet. Excellent mechanic. Really love this little bit that comes from Dungeon Crawl Classics. I'm going to stop here just to give you an example. DCC is well known for their massive amounts of roll tables, fumble tables, all kinds of tables. The majority of the very large book that you saw at the table is roll tables and fumble tables. Every single spell in this game has its very own fumble table that goes with that particular spell. So that takes up a majority of the book. So spellcasters, you do have your homework ahead of you. However, a couple photocopies and a little familiarity with what's going on, and you can get that down pretty quick. This is the second part of that same list. I love the little artwork inserted here. Just awesome little things to stop and draw your attention, give you a little bit of inspiration. A quick stop here so you can see how they handle alignment. They use the old law versus chaos alignment, and I think that's easy. Just make it simple, and it's such a simple thing that you could easily just put aside too. You don't have to follow this whatsoever, but I like how if they're going to include alignment, they just make it something very simple. You basically pick between law and chaos and move on. Good stuff. Also very inspired from old fantasy novels. Another pause here for a little artwork. Look, I love that. DCC Rules as Written does use an XP system. For those that like XP system, it is here. I am typically one that uses Milestone, but that's just my way of running games. Their XP system here is really well thought out and simplified, which is something I'm always going to be a fan of. Stated earlier, there are 7 classes in DCC, and races are handled as classes. You get your choice of cleric, thief, wizard, warrior, dwarf, elf, or hobbit. Those are the choices you have. I'm not going to go through every single one. I thought I'd stop here on the thief. You can really see that 3rd edition / older school D&D inspiration in the thief, in all the classes really, but in the thief I really think you see it because they really lean hard into the thief skills, which is really what the old school rogue / thief was all about. And as you can see, there's tables that go along with all this for advancement. There's titles that go along with this. Very, very old school inspired, but streamlined in a way that makes it very easy to understand. Here we see the thief skills, and this is, again, very, very old school right here. For you grognards out there that love the old school game, if you haven't checked DCC out, I think you'd really appreciate some of these little things they put in here that really harken back to that older style of play. And this is something I actually really think is the strength of Dungeon Crawl Classics. It leans into that old school style of play, but does it in a way that introduces a massive amount of danger, but just as much humor. And I think that's the game that so many of us are really going for. And the way they lean into it in DCC really makes it such a wonderful system and an easy choice if you only want one system to go with. But just thought I'd show you that stuff. They do just as well in all the other classes. But Thief I thought was a really good way to show you, especially with this skill table I'm showing you here. Really, really good stuff. I just really love how much thought was put into this, how much care was put into this game. I'm not going to go much into the warrior here, but there's something I had to point out because I pointed this out on another video, and it's one of my absolute favorite mechanics of all time. It is definitely a mechanic that I've used in other systems just because of how much I love it. That is the Mighty Deeds in Action. Essentially, you get to call a really cool maneuver or move that you get to do, roll a d4, or higher, depending on what your D die is. And if you hit a 3 or higher, you do it. So if you want to trip somebody, you could do that. If you want to grab somebody, you could do that. If you want to do a special move, you could do that. This is such a fun and underrated mechanic in some ways. I really think if you're a person that loves playing fighters and loves being able to use unique maneuvers, unique strategy, the Mighty Deeds and Action die and mechanic for a warrior just really gives that warrior a standout mechanic that definitely says this is a warrior different from other people that fight. It's one of those mechanics that I have just adopted as a universal mechanic. Little stop to check out some artwork again. Just good stuff. I love the artwork in this book. Check out this picture too. Look at how much is going on in this scene. There's such a story being told in this art. Really drew my attention right away, so I thought I'd stop by and show it to you guys really quick. And speaking of artwork, not only the amount, but just the variation of art styles. It's just one of those things that I'm a sucker for, and I'll point it out in every game that I showcase to you guys. Sorry about that if that bugs you, but I love this stuff. And one more time, this almost comic style panel art is just awesome and tells just a fun story of this party busting into this cave. Just great stuff. What I like to show you here is the attack roll modifiers. Now notice minus 2D, minus 1D, all that stuff, that is going up and down the dice chain. Just to show you here when we come to damage and death, characters or monsters die when they reach 0 hit points, period. Love it. I think that's that bit of danger, that bit of death is always possible, and they throw it right in there and let you know right away that's how it's intended. There's other stuff for like bleeding out and things like that, but the fact that that's the core rule is something I enjoy. As we enter the magic section, we are greeted by this wonderful piece of artwork that I thought I'd show you here. Look deep at this picture. Look at everything that's going on. Just the menagerie of things happening in this panel is just amazing. Stopping here, I just want to point out how in DCC they definitely separate wizard and cleric magic as being completely different, and something I'm always going to support. Good stuff. Really, really like it. I also want to point out the spell burn mechanic here, where basically you can temporarily expend points from your ability scores, like strength, agility, stamina, or whatever, and they can add 1 point to a spell check. I really like the spell burn mechanic. It gives wizards another way to push their magic with a little bit of a harm to themselves, so it's really not going to get overused and doesn't become overpowered. And I really, really like that little addition there. It really separates the magic in DCC from other systems. Great job again. Continuing with magic, the corruption. Magic can be corrupting to its user in DCC, and of course it comes with its own tables and little bits of rules here, but I love this idea. The fact that not only is magic potentially dangerous, but also almost certainly corrupting. There's just something about that that really draws me in. Maybe it's just because of how completely zany that can get, but I really like this idea that anybody who plays with magic is taking a big risk, and that's what makes magic so secretive and so feared. Something that I always like in my games is that magic is feared or not really liked by everybody. And this is a great way to put that in a game that makes it where a lot of people will be like, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that. And really, really adds that little bit of edge to a character sometimes that can be necessary. Once again, excellent job, guys. Finally, guys, I'm going to stop and show some artwork after this. But the final thing I want to show you about the game is their infamous or famous, whichever way you want to look at it, spells. Because as you can see, each spell comes with not only what the spell itself does, but it also gives you the chance for corruption and what happens during a misfire. And this is all something you determine during your spell check. So wizards out there, make sure you have some copies of your spells so you know what your fumble tables are. But these down here, these tables underneath the spell are those fumble charts. And you can see, if you take a look at some of these, what can happen. And frankly, if you don't like all the extra tables, you can just take the spells at face value and leave all the tables behind. You can only choose 1 or 2 of those things that can happen. You as a GM can just decide which one instead of having them roll for it. There's tons of ways you can manipulate and use this system. But I thought I'd show this off to you. I just randomly picked a couple pages of spells. Nothing special about these. They just give you a really good idea of how the spells are laid out, written, and the tables that come with them. And one of the reasons why the book is so thick. But I'm going to showcase a couple pieces of artwork and then get you guys back over to the table. So let's go check out some artwork really quick. Hop in here and checking this one out. Just another one of those great pictures with lots of stuff going on in one scene. What story does that tell you? What story does that make you want to tell? Another cool little piece of artwork. What a great idea for a villain if you think about it. Look at it's almost a themed villain that they're giving to you right here. Great stuff. Checking out yet another one. Just taking it in. Hopefully you're enjoying checking out some of these extra pictures. Stopping here at another great piece. And just to let you know, I'm not going through this entire book like I said in the beginning. And I am not going over the GM section, the bestiary part of the book or anything. I am showing you pictures from those, but those are also very well written, well made sections that really flesh the game out in a great way. Dungeon Crawl Classics is a game that implies its own world, so it has a lot of its own lore in there. So if you're somebody that's looking for that to be in place, or at least a starting point, again, DCC is a great place to go. Check it out. Speaking of monsters, look at this one, huh? So much happening, so much to take in. Just excellent work. This is the stuff that I really enjoy about tabletop games, where the artwork is so inspiring and so captivating in its own right. Quick stop at the monsters, just pointing out how the orcs in Thunder Claw Classics are the old school pig-faced orcs. So good on you guys. Good stuff. Classic DCC stuff here. Some of the characters you'll often see in their promotional stuff. But just want to stop and take a quick peek. Love the bell bottoms, man. And here is where I will end the PDF, guys. What a great picture to end it on. Let me take you back to the table so we can get some closing thoughts on one of my favorite tabletop RPG companies. All right, everybody. DCC is yet another game that is easy to love. Goodman Games knows what people are looking for, and they lean into that the best way possible. On top of great games, adventure modules, supplements, and third-party materials of all kinds, Goodman Games and DCC also offers a large and active community on Discord and any social media platform that they engage with, really. I mean, I give them a lot of credit. Their marketing team is pretty good. They get out there and they really do engage in every way possible. Goodman Games are a constant presence on the convention circuit. They have a creator / founder and a team that show they love tabletop RPGs. And they also offer those free quick start rules I was talking to you about, free adventures and character sheets. I mean, they even have their own day, for crying out loud. It's called DCC Day, which is a celebration of Dungeon Crawl Classics and an opportunity for third-party creators to write and display their talents using the DCC rule set. I'm recording this video in 2025, and this year, DCC Day will be on July 19th. I should have that in the links below as well. Calendars are there, and you can definitely check it out. But to add to all that stuff that I just said, there are more and more virtual tabletops that have Dungeon Crawl Classics and other Goodman games available on their platforms. Honestly, I really think this is one of those little secret things that if you're running your game online, having the game rules uploaded into your virtual tabletop, especially the kind where you can click on the character sheets and it does the rolling and math and everything for you, really takes a lot of the extra crunch out of the full rule set and makes it a lot more engaging for players, for those that don't like the crunchier games. Now, if you really love that crunch, I wouldn't do that. I would actually make everybody roll like normal. But just a little tip there that I thought I'd shoehorn in while I was talking about it. But Goodman Games really is kind of its own little micro-universe in the tabletop RPG space, and I, for one, am very happy that they exist. Like the other companies on this list, Goodman Games is an easy choice for that one and done I keep talking about, that has everything you need and more, offers enough free stuff to start with that can still last you for years, has prices for the books and PDFs that are actually quite reasonable considering the quality and what you get. I'm pretty sure I spent $35 on this book, and it's the entire game for $35. And the artwork in here is great. It's a high quality item. On top of that, it's just one of those companies that, as far as I can tell, you could just feel good about supporting. But oh my goodness, guys, seriously, there's so much to love with Goodman Games. I can only encourage you to check it out for yourself. Now, I will admit, with Dungeon Crawl Classics, I prefer playing it than running it. But if I do run it, I do strip it down quite a bit to its most simple form because I'm the Motley GM. I like rules light and I like it to be easy. Luckily for me, I have players that enjoy running the crunchier system, so that's kind of how that works out in my favor. Everybody else's mileage will vary on that one, of course. But I will tell you guys, showcasing games like the ones on my recommended list here like this one. It gives me a chance to try to highlight some unique elements and fun additions to games that I frankly think do it better than the one now owned by corporate interests. I want to give a big shout out to the road crew and multiple writers and artists involved with Goodman Games and the related third-party products. You guys are keeping the hobby alive and well, and I love what you guys are doing. Don't change for anybody. Another shout out to the Discord community for DCC and for Goodman Games. There's a bunch of fun and creative souls out there. Go join up. Check the links below again, and you can find all their social media. And finally, I want to give a really, really, really big shout out to all you subscribers out there. Despite losing some people after my last video, I actually just hit over 500 subscribers, and I can't tell you how cool that is. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking it out. And hey, even if you're a person that didn't like everything I said, thanks for stopping by and checking me out anyway. I can understand that not everybody's going to like everything I say, and that's totally fine. But thanks for checking me out. I really do appreciate that, and hopefully I can continue to give you guys some stuff that's entertaining and maybe helps you in your game a little bit. Let me close out by saying that if you are also looking for a game that does it better than the one game now ruled by corporate overlords, please check out my other videos. In this list, my corporations that I recommend list, and also my other series, my plea for you to play other tabletop RPGs. Take time to check out some great games and choose the one that will most help you to play for fun first. Thanks for watching, everybody.